Thank you, Vance, and the entire team of the Children's Movement of Florida. I know many are coming off of a Thanksgiving that looks different than any they have ever experienced. And often, what we don't think about is what this holiday means for individuals who are native to this land. So, for all of those who are listening who have indigenous blood coursing through their body, I acknowledge that the land I stand on is your ancestral home. The sacrifice your ancestors made is one that we can never forget. I honor you. And as I think about early learning, which has become a discipline with scholars all over the world investigating the impacts of quality care and early brain development, often removed from that discourse is the fact that this country, Black women, created what we know as this industry. From the time of their arrival, they have always taken care of other people's children, even at the sacrifice of their own. And as the legacy of teaching and singing, and most importantly, loving on children continues to this day, it's important we honor those. So in Overtown, there is Miss Smith, who has been taking care of babies longer than I've been alive. And in Liberty City, there's Miss Terry, who calls herself a foot soldier. She has been on the front lines ensuring the quality of childcare increases year after year. I honor both of you. I honor each of those four mothers whose names are known and unknown. It is their legacy that continues, and we must honor them. The reason I am not with you today is because at the time you will be watching this, I will be celebrating my son's 6th birthday. And I promised that on this day I would not work. It would forever be our special day. As I am holding him in my heart, I ask each of you to hold a child in yours, one of color. Just hold their face. Because as we explore the need for a racial equity lens in early childhood classrooms, I ask you to remember this is not an academic exercise. This work is grounded in real children like my Brooklyn and all the children you're holding. Now, I know some of you are thinking that there are so many disparities out there, so why are we always talking about race? And that's simply because we see the greatest consistent disparities when we look at race. And we know that if we can make progress for Black children, we know those efforts will raise the tides for all. So let's get into it. As early as 6 months, a baby's brain can notice race-based differences. While they are noticing, we are steady teaching them early discriminatory skills. We are pointing out patterns that distinguish shapes, colors, and sizes, and just about anything that we can see. We are mapping onto their brains a language to help them make sense of the world. And yet, when it comes to race, we become mute. When they notice themselves, we tell them that all people are the same. We ask them to portray their own eyes, and we preach a mantra of sameness, even though we're clearly not. And our babies, they pick up on our discomfort. Between the ages of 2 and 4, some of our children are already internalizing racial bias. They know intuitively what the statistics confirm. The U.S. Department of Education reported that while Black children account for about 20% of the pre-K population, they represent approximately half of pre-K suspensions. Be clear, when I say pre-K, I'm talking about 4-year-olds. And we are saying that their behavior is so abhorrent that they don't deserve a space to learn and grow. So be clear, if we are seeing behaviors that are not pleasing to us, then we have to remember their behavior is nothing more than a reflection of the environment that we have given them. The Maasai warriors in Africa know that the health and well-being of a community is measured by the health and well-being of its children. This is so ingrained in the culture that the greeting upon seeing someone, regardless of whether or not you have children, is, and how are the children? What does it say about us that we treat some children like they're disposable? One of the most difficult parts of it all is often that these acts are committed by well-meaning individuals. They are creating a racial caste system. Dr. Gillam's work out of Yale found that in one study, once you say challenging behaviors, an early childhood teacher's gaze will automatically shift to a Black child, well, Black boys in particular, even when they're doing nothing wrong. So remember, our children are a reflection of us. And remember that sometimes we are judging them for acts they have not even committed. When Black children express a developmentally appropriate behavior, they are more likely to be disciplined, and that discipline will be harsher. What we are telling our babies about who Black children are is being ingrained into them, and we are creating an anti-Black bias right from the early years. Miss Terry is known to say our babies will live up to the brand. So what brand are we putting on them? Is it the school to prison pipeline? Or I think one could say it's the pre-K to prison pipeline. We have to be willing to uproot systemic racism. It's easy to think of it as something that happens outside of our home, classrooms, or our education system. But the truth is, we don't get statistics that show half of suspensions of pre-K children are Black without us participating in it. I know you're exhausted. In full disclosure, I am too. But our babies deserve for us to push past our exhaustion, to focus on the policies, practices, resource allocations, power dynamics, and mental models we hold. We each have a role. I'm not asking for you to walk away with hope. I'm asking you to act. Like the early childhood comprehensive system that is fighting to transform early learning by building a broad-based coalition that centers parent leadership in Liberty City. And like the Early Learning Coalition of Miami-Dade and Monroe County that is standing flat-footed in its commitment to provide a just experience for all children. In 2021, I am grateful to stand beside them as they provide ongoing classroom-level supports, from understanding bias and disrupting it to acknowledging harm through restorative work to focus on healing. No longer can we be satisfied with performative cultural acts, such as recognizing Kwanzaa without ever explaining why the holiday was created in the first place. We must talk about race. We must walk difference into the classroom. We must be comfortable honoring these differences so that we can ultimately celebrate them. John A. Powell out of UC Berkeley tells us that inclusion is not enough. Our children need to experience belongingness, that every learning environment is one where they belong, that the images, content, and treatment all reinforces that they are amazing just as they are. And as for you, you can't change a thing you can't name. And if you haven't already done so, please go to the Harvard website and take an implicit association test so that you can see what biases that you are holding that may be in contradiction to your own value system. See, that's the power of bias. We don't even know that it's there, and yet it's causing us to act. So now this is the part where you take out your pen and pencil and you write down what you need to do. Make sure you take that implicit association test. Start talking about race so that you can become more comfortable. Walk it into the classroom. Remember that by the age of 2, some of our babies are already starting to internalize that bias. We need not give them the old language that tells them about advantage and disadvantage. We must disrupt that pattern. And most importantly, stop over-disciplining our babies. You know, in the early childhood comprehensive systems world, we say, racial equity is not something you do. It is something that you become. May you too become a justice warrior. Be clear, there is so much more than you can do than what I've outlined here. This is just to get you started. So one thing that you can do right now, remember that baby that you held in your heart as we were talking. I'm going to ask you to go to the ECCS South Florida Instagram page and post their picture or an image that makes you think of them and something that you are willing to do today to bring that kind of belongingness into classrooms. And personally, I'm going to ask that you send me an email with a birthday greeting for my son, Brooklyn. Wouldn't it be amazing if all children felt like they truly belonged to the community in which they stand? So, To the fellow change makers out there, I'm going to bid you adieu. But prior to closing, in honoring the memory of John Lewis, I ask that each of you make a commitment to go get into some good trouble on behalf of babies. Be well.